But Brandon, we got 2 teams left, and in this segment, we are looking at the Arizona State Sun Devils. This is the team that finished numero dos in the Pac-12 South last year with a record of 6-3 in conference, 7-6 overall. They are the last team we are going to talk about in this side of the Pac-12 that has a new coach. We got through all 3 of them. This is the last one that we are going through, and this one is the most unique for me because the last 2 that we've talked about, Chip Kelly's been out of college football for a while, but at least he has college football background. You got Kevin Sumlin. He was at least in college football last year. You got a guy in Herm Edwards who is a very smart football mind. I will say that. Like, I'm not taking that away from him. He also did things with the rookie symposium, talking to the rookies. He's a motivator when it comes to coaching. Hasn't coached, though, in 10 years. The last time he was a head coach, I was a senior in high school. And he has not worked at the college level since he was a defensive backs coach at San Jose State in 1989 was the last year he worked for San Jose State before becoming a scout for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the thing I want to ask you is the same thing I asked you for the last 2, but kind of more importantly, when it comes to Herm Edwards, what can we expect from him at Arizona State with all of this? How long it's been since he's been at the college level, but also how long it's been since he's been a head coach, even if it was an NFL head coach in 2008.
I think this is such a crazy hire. I really do. I mean, Herm Edwards, again, he's been an analyst for a long time. He has not coached in college since 1989. That's forever ago. That's before I was born and well before you were born. And I guess I just...
It wasn't well before I was born. It was only a year. I mean, 89. I'm 90.
Oh, excuse me. That was born in 90. Yeah. My bad. I confused.
I like how you're like,
those things.
I was like, no.
No, that was more well before I was born and just a little bit before you were born. Doesn't matter. A long time ago. But I think it's kind of a crazy hire, to be honest with you. That's what I think of it.
Is it smart? Is it smart for them to go for a guy who, yes, he's a smart football mind. If I were to describe him as his best trait, would be his ability to motivate people. He's a motivator.
And that's what he does. And I think it's a crazy hire. I do. But I think it's a crafty hire by Arizona State. And I think, again, I mean, Herm Edwards is not the one playing. He's the one coaching. And like you said, he's an outstanding motivator. He knows how to stand up in front of a group of guys and get them to buy into something. And that sounds exactly like what he is doing. And one of the guys who has really bought into what he is saying is Manny Wilkins. And that is a huge thing for them because he's the quarterback. That's the one you want to definitely have buying into the system. And he's a big fan of Herm Edwards. That's outstanding. That's what you want to be able to have. And Wilkins is also saying that he's willing to do more under center this year. That's going to be very helpful for you. And if Herm Edwards is able to get these guys to buy in, which again, it sounds like he has definitely done that, then there's half of the problem solved. And I don't want to say problem, but there's half of the challenge solved and half of the battle down. Because when a new coach goes into some place, usually, what are they implementing? They're implementing a new culture. They're implementing a new way of doing things. And they're hoping that their way is going to be the way that works. And if guys are buying into that, the sooner the better. And the sooner they do that, then the sooner they can move on to then the other football stuff. And guys will already feel like, hey, we're out here. We're going to be winners. We're playing for a guy who, has the winning mindset. We then adapt as a player, adapt that winning mindset that even, let's be honest, I don't think Arizona State's going to be that good this year.
No, I might be on the, I wouldn't be surprised to be on the other side of that.
But I would be surprised if they were. I guess I just think that this is a team that if they have that mindset, they can go out there and they can at least still feel good about losing because that's what they'll do this year.
So you're saying that last year's 7-win team was a fluke almost? You think they'll do, like, not necessarily looking at the schedule yet, because of course we'll do that, but you think that that'll be kind of close to being a fluke because they'll take a step back this year?
No, I don't want to say a fluke, but they have no depth. I mean, if you look around the squad, there are so many positions where they do not have guys that if someone got hurt, okay, slot him back in. And they're thin. They're thin in a lot of areas, and I just don't think that they're going to be competing for anything in the conference this year.
The thing I like most about this team is what Herm Edwards is doing with the offense. Is basically, to me, it's kind of almost an NFL mentality with it, where a lot of times you'll get a coach. If he's a defensive coach, like I'm going to use the Atlanta Falcons you can use the Atlanta Falcons in this situation. You can use the Minnesota Vikings in this situation. It happens across the entire NFL, but those are the main two. The New England Patriots as well, where let's say you've got a defensive-minded head coach. I'll use my favorite team, the Vikings, Mike Zimmer. Zimmer's a defensive guy. I've got my defensive coordinator over here, but I am going to be the guy that molds this defense because that's what I do. However, I'm going to bring in an offensive coordinator to where I can just say, okay, Pat Shurmur, you do you. Where this year is going to be, okay, DeFilippo, you do you. In New England, it's Belichick. I'm going to be the defensive guy. That's why he's the defensive coordinator and the head coach. Why he also has with Matt Patricia, he had Matt Patricia, but it was Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia doing that defense. All right, Josh McDaniels, I'm going to let you do you on the offensive side. Of course, they got Tom Brady, so there's a little bit of an asterisk there. That's like having two offensive coordinators on that side of the ball. And then, like I mentioned with the Falcons, all right, Dan Quinn, I'm going to man this defense. Okay, Kyle Shanahan. Okay, Steve Sarkisian. You guys man the offense. I'm putting the trust in you. That's what Herm Edwards is almost doing, where, yeah, you look at it and you go, wow, 4th OC in 4 years, not too good for Arizona State. But when you look at who Herm Edwards has put into that position this year, you've got a guy in Rob Likens, who last year was the wide receiver coach and the passing coordinator for Arizona State. So basically what he's doing is saying, all right, we've got Manny Wilkins coming back. He's going to be our starting quarterback. We've got our All-American wide receiver coming back in La'Neal Harry. We've got 4 offensive line starters coming back. I'm going to take this guy in Lycan. I'm going to give him a promotion. Here you go. Here's a bigger paycheck for you and your family to basically man this offense. So Herm Edwards is basically going to go, I'll check in with you. I'll ask you to check in with me, but this offense is all yours. We're still going to keep it as this 11 personnel offense, this spread offense that we've got. We've got the guys here that know the system. You know the system. You know the guys. They know you. We're going to be comfortable on that side of the ball. The biggest question to me is the defensive side of the ball. What is Herm Edwards and first-year coordinator Danny Gonzalez, who's coming over from, I believe, I got to double check, it's San Diego State. Yeah, he's coming over from San Diego State, where he was the DC/safeties coach over there for the Aztecs. He's now coming in. Herm Edwards and him now have to take this defense and kind of install their 3-3-5 scheme that they want to do. That, to me, will be the biggest question about this team is, can Herm Edwards and Danny Gonzalez kind of infuse this defense and get it going early on in the season and get that defense clicking?
And do you think that there's going to be because since they are since they are implementing this new 3-3-5 defensive scheme, do you think it's going to take a while for the team to kind of get into that and grasp that, since that is something different that they're going to have to be working with?
I mean, there's going to be a learning curve. That's what I think it'll be. But I mean, looking at the schedule, they might have to learn quick because, like, you get Michigan State week 2, You're at Washington week 4. I mean, Arizona, like that's the things that scare me. If they had a little bit of an easier non-conference, if they played like maybe switch the Washington game and like, I don't know, Colorado, have like Colorado, Oregon State to start, maybe then it's like, okay, you can kind of take this time to, because it's going to be different. It's going to be different language. It's going to be different concepts than what they are used to. And that's going to be the biggest thing for this team, is kind of learning that defense as quick as possible and being ready to go. Because we talked about Michigan State last week. Michigan State's going to be ready to go on September 8th when those teams meet in Arizona at Arizona State Stadium. And then when you go to Washington to play that game, and I believe Washington's in Spokane, Washington, I believe. When you go to play that game in Spokane, those boys are going to be ready to play. They're probably going to be one of the favorites to win the Pac-12 again this year. So you got to have that defense ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised if this team starts out 2-2 or 1-3, depending on that San Diego State game this year.
And in this 3-3-5 defensive alignment, you want the front guys to be absolutely tough and be able to get to the quarterback. And that's, again, it's for Arizona State, the question is, do they have those guys up there to do that?
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, in any position, they have some guys who are up and coming. I'm not trying to say they do not have talent defensively on this roster, but I am saying I don't know if that talent is ready yet. I just don't see a lot of depth. I don't see a lot of guys filling in spots behind the starters for this defensive group, and especially in this 3-3-5 alignment, when you're trying to, a lot of times you're trying to counteract the spread offenses and things like that. They kind of look at this as a spread defense. You need to be able to, you got guys that are most likely then quick to play this, which means you may need guys subbing in and out. Do you have the personnel to be able to do that effectively and have the guys coming in quality that are coming in where big plays aren't going to be made?
Well, to me, what I'm kind of looking at is that, to me, the big position that I'm looking at is, I'm trying to look to see if I'm going to get this right. I believe it's the star linebacker position. It's that kind of safety. It's that safety linebacker position that, like, Michigan has had. We've seen Jabril Peppers be really successful in that position. And for me, that is the biggest position on this team, because in the 3-3-5, it's different in how they're going to defend the run, and it's very critical on that kind of linebacker safety hybrid position. And you look at Arizona State, and like, they could throw out, I'm going to get this name wrong, so I apologize, but senior Desmond Tutalatasi, I think I said that right, maybe wrong, or sophomore Evan Fields. They could throw one of those two out there, but like, they don't really have any great options for it. And for me, that is going to be the only downfall, if there is, to Arizona State this year, is, hey, we're going to implement this defense, but because I wasn't here last year, we're not going to have the right personnel for it. So that's going to be where Herm Edwards comes as a motivator, as can he bring that into the recruiting game and recruit defensive guys that will fit his 3-3-5 scheme that he's trying to implement this year, because this year I just don't think he'll have the right collections of guys to fit the scheme he's trying to put in defensively.
And Ricky, when you go over to the schedule and you look there, how do you realistically think that the Sun Devils can do this season? Because you were saying, when I was saying I don't think I see them doing all that well this year, you seem to be kind of staunchly against me and completely on the other side.
I don't think they'll be terrible, but I mean, after looking at the schedule, I'm gonna be nice and say 2-2 to start the year, maybe 1-3 depending on how that San Diego State game goes, if like San Diego State gets the jump on them and gets an upset. But I'll say 2-2 to start, plus that game's in San Diego State, so that could also play into it as well. So 2-2, 3-2, you beat Oregon State. Colorado, even with everything we talked about here, I like Arizona State over Colorado. So we'll put 4 wins. You lose the next 3, I'll say. I'll give the Utes the Utah game because they're going to be good. So what? That's 3 so you're 2-2, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3, 4-4, 4-5. And then I'll say, let's see, I'm at 4-5. I'll say 5-7. 5-7. That's my final answer. Which, I mean, looking at it, it's kind of a step back from what they had, but it's not like they're not going to be at the bottom of the Pac-12. That's what I'm trying to say. They're not going to be a bottom feeder like Colorado was last year or like Oregon State is, but I can see them falling back to like maybe where in Arizona was, where UCLA was last year. The question is, will they make a bowl game? Will they get 6 wins? Because in my situation, 5-7, they don't get a bowl game. I use air quotes because in this day and age, a 5-win team can get a bowl game.
Yeah, so sad. Participation trophies are ugly. Yeah, I've got them at 5-7 too. Mm-hmm. I think that they'll be either next to last or dead last in the South.
The thing I'll say is I'm going to put a stipulation to mine.
Sure.
I'm going to say 5-7, but I can see them going 6-6 if they beat Arizona or UCLA. Because those are 2 other teams. I know we talked about them where they're different than the Herm Edwards hire, but if they could beat one of those 2 teams, because the good yet the bad with those games is great. We should have our defense should be a little bit more locked down than it was at the beginning of the year. The bad thing is their teams, because their new head coaches, should be locked down a little bit more. When we look at the teams when they play UCLA and Arizona, those are going to be the best representations of those 3 teams because they're so close to the end of the season in November.
Yeah.
That's the good and the bad with it.
Yeah,
good because you're a better team, bad because they're a better team.
You're right. I think 5-7 is accurate for this team this year. The first year under Herm Edwards, I don't think that that's cause for any panic.
Is this team ever going to be successful under him? I'll just jump the gun and ask you.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will because he's such a good motivator, and he knows the game of football.
And it depends on how he's going to recruit too.
I think that's obviously the number 1 thing is the recruiting. But the first 2 things, passion, knows football. You can win if you have those 2 things.
I mean, this to me is if I was going to say any team in the Pac-12 that I would give the Ricky's most interesting team of the conference, I would say this is it. Only because I want to see, I want to go 4 years, 5 years down the line to see how this works out. How does this work out? Does it work out good for Arizona State? Does it work out bad and they part ways and then he's back in the broadcast booth or the analyst booth, I should say? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely will. I think if you were asking me and you're not, but I'll ask myself.
Go ahead. Tell me what you think, B.
Is that if I had to be picking a most interesting team from the South at least, it's going to be UCLA because I want to see what Chip Kelly is going to be able to do because he had such instant success at Oregon. That's all people remember him for in college football. And if he does not have that instant success at UCLA and they don't see him doing things right away, is the mob mentality going to set in and are they going to say get rid of him right away?
I will always remember him and that team coming up short against the Auburn Tigers and Cam Newton. Cam Scootin' Newton that year, or Scam Newton, as some of them call him. I really wanted Oregon to win that game. I was cheering for Oregon so bad, and I was crushed when the Auburn Tigers beat them in that BC. I think that was the Fiesta Bowl that year, the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. that year for the BCS title game. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What do you expect from Herm Edwards in year one, him coming out of the analyst booth to coach the Arizona Sun Devils? What do you think of the offense? What do you think of the defense? How is this team going to do this year? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.